The galaxy of Nebulon was vast and unrelenting, filled with wonder and peril in equal measure. Jax Kalin knew this better than anyone. His life as a freelance cartographer had taken him to places most wouldn't dare to tread, desolate moons, uncharted star systems, and forgotten worlds where the echoes of ancient civilizations still lingered. This time was supposed to be no different. The Star Whisperer, Jax's well-worn but dependable vessel, hummed as it charted the edge of the Cygnus Rift, a region notorious for its gravitational anomalies. Jax leaned back in his pilot's chair, sipping on a cup of Stemcy AF, his boots propped up on the console. The ship's AI, Luna, chimed softly. Gravitational fluctuations detected ahead, Jax. Shall I adjust course? Nah, Luna, Jax replied lazily, waving a hand. That's why I'm here. Nobody's mapped this sector because everyone's too scared of a few wobbly space currents. Just keep us steady. The ship lurched violently. Jax spilled his drink, cursing as alarms blared. He slammed his hands on the console, trying to regain control. What the hell, Luna? Massive gravitational pull detected. Emergency protocol activated. Brace for impact. The Star Whisperer spiraled out of control, its systems struggling against an unseen force. Jack scrambled for the controls, but it was no use. His ship was being dragged toward a massive, barren planet, its surface glinting ominously under a red sun. A deep, guttural hum vibrated through the cockpit as if the planet itself was alive. The crash was inevitable. Jax barely managed to activate the dampeners before the ship hit the ground, skidding across the rocky surface. Sparks flew as the hull groaned in protest, and silence followed. Jax coughed, pulling himself from the pilot's seat and checking the ship's status. Luna, report. Systems are offline. Hull integrity compromised. Survival probability 72%. Well, that's comforting, Jax muttered, grabbing his toolkit. He stepped out onto the planet's surface, the atmosphere thin but breathable. Dust and ash swirled in the low winds, and the landscape stretched endlessly, a mix of jagged rocks and strange crystalline formations that pulsed faintly with light. He was about to assess the damage to his ship when he felt a presence. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. Turning slowly, he saw a figure emerging from the haze. It moved with a predatory grace, a shimmer of light reflecting off intricate armor that seemed to ripple like liquid metal. The figure stepped closer, and Jax's eyes widened. She was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Her skin was a deep shade of violet, glowing faintly in the dim light, with tattoos or markings that seemed to shift and change as he looked at them. Her eyes glowed like twin stars, and her braided silver hair flowed behind her like a living thing. In one hand, she held a blade that seemed to hum with energy, and on her back was a staff etched with symbols Jax couldn't decipher. I've been looking for you in the whole galaxy, man, she said, her voice low and melodic, but carrying a weight of authority. Jax blinked, his mind racing. You sure you've got the right guy? Because I don't even know who you are. She tilted her head, studying him like a predator sizing up its prey. You are Jax Kalin, yes? Depends. Who's asking? She took a step closer, and Jax instinctively backed away, bumping into his ship. I am Zara of the Share Attack, she said. Protector of the Galactic Key. And you, Jax Kalin, are the last descendant of the Key's makers. I've crossed light years and countless dangers to find you. Jax let out a nervous laugh. Okay, cool. But I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm just a cartographer. I map stars, not galactic keys. Zara's glowing eyes narrowed. Your ignorance does not change your destiny. Destiny? Jax echoed, his voice rising. Lady, I think you've been out in the void too long. I don't even know what a galactic key is. Zara's patience seemed to fray. She pointed her blade at him, and Jax raised his hands in surrender. Enough, she snapped. The key is in danger. If you truly do not know your heritage, then we must act quickly. There is no time for debate. Before Jax could protest further, the ground beneath them trembled violently. From the horizon, a swarm of black shapes rose into the air drones, their metallic wings glinting in the red sun. They moved in perfect unison, heading straight for them. Zara glanced at the incoming threat, then back at Jax. We'll discuss this later. For now, you fight. Fight? With what? Jax shouted. She tossed him a small device, a sleek, cylindrical object that expanded into a plasma pistol as it landed in his hands. With that. Try not to die. Jax stared at the pistol, then at Zara as she leapt into action, her blade cutting through the air with deadly precision. The drones descended like a storm, and Jax had no choice but to follow her lead. Whatever mess he'd just crashed into, it was clear there was no turning back. The drones descended in a chaotic swarm, their metallic exteriors reflecting the harsh red sunlight of the planet. Jax stumbled backward, fumbling with the plasma pistol Zara had tossed him. Its sleek design pulsed with a faint blue light, humming like a living thing in his grip. Shoot, you fool! Zara shouted, her blade slicing through the first wave of attackers with effortless precision. Sparks flew as she moved with the grace of a dancer, her armor shimmering as if alive. Jax took aim, squeezing the trigger. A bolt of blue plasma surged from the weapon, striking a drone squarely in its core. It exploded in a shower of sparks, and Jax felt a surge of adrenaline. Okay, maybe I can do this, he muttered, firing again. The battle was intense but short-lived. Zara was a whirlwind of destruction, dismantling the drones with a mixture of brute force and skill. Jax, while far less effective, managed to take down a few before the last of the swarm fell, their lifeless shells littering the ground like discarded toys. As the dust settled, Jax lowered the pistol, his hands trembling. What the hell were those things? Seekers, Zara replied, cleaning her blade with a flick of her wrist. Automated hunters sent by the faction. The faction? Jax echoed, panting. Who are they, and why are they sending robot murder squads after us? They seek the galactic key, Zara said, turning to him. Her glowing eyes bore into his, her tone grave. As I said, they are not the only ones. The galaxy is fracturing under their influence, and without the key, it will fall into chaos. Jax blinked, feeling a growing knot of unease in his chest. Right. About that galactic key thing. I think you might have the wrong guy. I'm just a cartographer. I make star maps, I don't save galaxies. Zara frowned, stepping closer. Your modesty does not change the truth. You are Jax Kalen, descendant of the Kael'tari, the ancient creators of the key. Its power can only be wielded by one of your bloodline. Jax shook his head, laughing nervously. Kael'tari? Lady, I'm from Earth. My dad ran a repair shop, and my mom made killer waffles. I think you've been misinformed. Zara's expression softened, but her resolve remained firm. The Kael'tari were scattered long ago, their bloodlines diluted among the stars. Your ancestors may have left behind their past, but the legacy remains within you. Before Jax could protest further, Zara reached into a compartment on her armor, pulling out a small holographic device. With a flick of her wrist, an image appeared, a glowing, geometric artifact, its edges pulsating with an inner light. It floated in the air, radiating a strange, almost hypnotic energy. This is the galactic key, she said. A construct of immense power. It maintains the balance of the galaxy, keeping its energy current stable. Without it, the natural order will collapse, stars will die prematurely, planets will tear themselves apart, and entire civilizations will be wiped out. Jack stared at the image, feeling a strange pull in his chest. And you're saying, I have something to do with this? Yes, Zara said, her voice softening. The key was stolen by the faction's leader, a being known as Veil Torin. He intends to use it to rewrite the laws of the galaxy, bending all of existence to his will. But the key is incomplete. Without its true wielder to activate its full power, it is unstable. That wielder is you. Jax laughed, the sound hollow. You're joking, right? I'm not some chosen hero. I'm just trying to make enough credits to keep my ship flying. Zara's glowing eyes narrowed. Do you think I crossed the galaxy, faced death at every turn, and sought you out on this forsaken rock because I enjoy wasting my time? Jax opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. There was something in her voice, in her unshakable belief, that made him pause. He glanced back at the holographic key, its light reflecting in his eyes. Somewhere deep within him, a faint memory stirred dreams he'd had as a child, of strange symbols and a voice calling his name. Let's say I believe you, Jax said slowly. What happens now? Zara deactivated the hologram and stepped closer. We find the key. We stop Veil Tauren. And we restore balance to the galaxy. Easy for you to say, Jax muttered. You're, like, a space ninja or something. I'm just a guy with a busted ship. Zara placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch surprisingly gentle. You are more than you know, Jax Kalen. And I will train you, if need be. But we must move quickly. The faction seekers will return, and they will not stop until they capture you. Jax sighed, running a hand through his hair. Fine. I'll help you. But only because I don't have a choice. And if we survive this, you owe me an explanation, one that makes sense. Zara smiled faintly, a rare glimpse of warmth in her otherwise stoic demeanor. Agreed. Before Jax could respond, the Star Whisperer's damaged hull groaned, and Luna's voice crackled to life through the comms. Jax, ship repairs are progressing, but I detect additional hostiles approaching from orbit. Fantastic, Jax muttered. Looks like our time's up. Zara turned toward the horizon, her glowing eyes scanning the distance. Then we move. The next phase of our journey begins. With that, she started walking, her stride confident and unwavering. Jax hesitated, glancing back at his broken ship before following her. For the first time in his life, he wasn't charting a path, he was being dragged along one. And something told him this was only the beginning of his troubles. The Star Whisperer limped across the void, its patched-up engines groaning under the strain of hyperspace travel. Jax sat in the cockpit, his hands gripping the controls as he steered the ship through the swirling blue haze of a jump tunnel. Zara stood beside him, her arms crossed, radiating her usual intensity. Remind me why we're heading to a frozen moon again? Jax asked, glancing at her. Because the key's stolen fragment is hidden there, Zara replied, her tone clipped. The faction's operatives are using Cryocon's hostile environment as a natural barrier. It's the safest place to conceal something they don't want found. Safe for them, maybe, Jax muttered, his breath fogging up as the ship's temperature systems struggled to counteract Cryocon's icy aura even in orbit. You do realize this ship barely survived that last firefight, right? If we crash on another planet, I'm charging extra. Zara raised an eyebrow. For someone pivotal to saving the galaxy, you complain a great deal. Yeah, well, pivotal people like to stay alive. Before Zara could reply, Luna's voice interrupted. Exiting hyperspace in 5, 4, 3. The ship lurched as it dropped out of hyperspace, the stars returning to their natural positions. Ahead loomed Cryocon, a massive frozen moon covered in swirling storms and jagged ice spires. Its surface glinted like a shattered mirror under the faint light of its dying sun. Lovely, Jax said, steering the Star Whisperer toward the surface. It's like a postcard from hell. Zara leaned forward, her glowing eyes narrowing. The faction's outpost should be near the southern hemisphere. The key fragment emits a distinct energy signature. Luna, can you confirm? The ship's AI chirped. Energy signature detected. Faint but consistent. Warning, atmospheric conditions are deteriorating. Surface temperatures will drop below survivable levels in 6 hours. 6 hours? Jax groaned. Great. No pressure. As they approached, the turbulence grew worse. Violent gusts of wind buffeted the Star Whisperer, and visibility plummeted in the blinding snowstorm. Jax gritted his teeth, gripping the controls tightly. Hold on. It's going to be a rough landing. The ship touched down with a jarring thud, skidding across the icy surface before coming to a shaky halt. Jax exhaled sharply, his knuckles white from gripping the controls. Still alive. Barely. Zara was already moving. She grabbed her staff and blade from the weapons rack and turned to Jax. The faction's forces will have patrols. Stay close. Jax grabbed his plasma pistol, muttering under his breath. Stay close, she says. Like I have anywhere else to go. The frozen landscape of Cryocon was as unforgiving as advertised. Jagged ice spires rose like crystalline monoliths, and the ground was treacherous, riddled with hidden crevasses. The wind howled incessantly, carrying tiny shards of ice that stung Jax's face even through his helmet. Zara moved with purpose, her boots crunching over the frozen ground. Despite the storm, she seemed unfazed, her glowing eyes scanning the horizon. Jax struggled to keep up, slipping and stumbling as they trudged through the blizzard. How are you not freezing? Jax asked, shivering despite the thermal layers in his suit. My armor regulates temperature, Zara replied without looking back. Perhaps you should have invested in better gear. Thanks for the tip, Jax grumbled, slipping again. I'll add that to the list of things I can't afford. Before Zara could respond, she stopped abruptly, holding up a hand. Jax froze, his heart pounding. What is it? Drones, Zara said, lowering her voice. They're scouting the perimeter. Stay low. Jax crouched behind an ice ridge as Zara unslung her staff. From their vantage point, he could see 3 of the faction's drones hovering nearby, scanning the area with sharp, red beams. Zara moved like a shadow, darting from one icy outcrop to another. When she was close enough, she extended her staff, and a pulse of energy erupted from its tip. The first drone exploded in a shower of sparks. The other 2 drones turned toward the disturbance, their weapons charging. Jax panicked, raising his pistol and firing wildly. One of his shots connected, clipping a drone's wing and sending it spiraling into the ground. The third drone fired back, its plasma bolt narrowly missing Jax's head. Get down! Zara shouted, leaping into action. She vaulted over the ridge, slicing the last drone in half with her blade. The wreckage hit the ground with a hiss, the metal already frosting over in the cold. Jax crawled out from behind the ridge, his hands still trembling. You're welcome, he said, trying to sound braver than he felt. Zara smirked faintly. For what? Almost hitting the target? Hey, I'm still new to this whole saving the galaxy thing, Jax retorted. Zara shook her head but didn't argue. Come on. The outpost is close. They reached the faction's outpost an hour later, a massive, fortress-like structure carved into a glacier. The walls were lined with automated turrets, and the air buzzed with the sound of patrolling drones. Zara crouched behind a snowdrift, studying the defenses. We'll need to disable the turrets first, she said. Then we infiltrate the main facility and retrieve the key fragment. Sounds simple enough, Jax said sarcastically. What's plan B? Running away screaming? Zara ignored him, handing him a small device. This is a disruptor. Attach it to the turret control panel near the eastern gate. I'll cover you. Jax stared at the device, his stomach twisting with nerves. Why do I have to do it? Because I can't fight and plant the disruptor at the same time, Zara said, her tone firm. You're capable, Jax. Trust yourself. He swallowed hard, nodding. Fine. But if I die, I'm haunting you. Zara's lips twitched in the faintest hint of a smile. Noted. Jax crept through the snow, his heart pounding with every step. The turret swiveled back and forth, scanning the area with red lasers. Zara, true to her word, provided cover, taking out drones with pinpoint precision. Reaching the control panel, Jax crouched low, his fingers numb as he fumbled with the disruptor. The device clicked into place, and a green light blinked on. Disruptors set. Jax called out, ducking as a turret fired in his direction. Zara pressed a button on her gauntlet, and the disruptor activated, sending a pulse of energy through the outpost systems. The turrets froze, their lights flickering before going dark. Move! Zara shouted. Together, they sprinted toward the fortress, slipping through a side entrance before the defenses could reboot. Inside, the air was eerily still, the walls shimmering with frost. Jax glanced around, his pistol at the ready. Now what? He whispered. Now, Zara said, her voice low but determined, we find the key fragment and stop the faction from tearing this galaxy apart. The interior of the faction's fortress on Cryocon was a maze of icy corridors and dimly lit chambers. The walls gleamed like frozen obsidian, and the air was so cold that even Jax's thermal suit struggled to keep him warm. His breath formed small clouds as he followed Zara deeper into the stronghold, her every movement purposeful and silent. Do you even know where we're going? Jax whispered, his voice echoing slightly. The energy signature is concentrated below, Zara replied, her glowing eyes scanning the corridors. The key fragment will be heavily guarded. Be ready. Ready? Sure. I love walking into death traps, Jax muttered, clutching his plasma pistol like a lifeline. The pair descended deeper into the fortress, eventually reaching a vast chamber bathed in an eerie blue glow. At the center of the room was a pedestal of black crystal, and atop it floated the key fragment. The shard was a jagged, luminous object, pulsing with an inner light that seemed to ripple like a heartbeat. But they weren't alone. Standing before the pedestal was a tall figure clad in obsidian armor, his form imposing and his presence suffocating. A flowing black cloak billowed behind him as if stirred by an unseen wind, and his helmet was a smooth, featureless mask that glinted in the light of the fragment. Around him, drones hovered menacingly, their weapons trained on Jax and Zara. Veil Torin, Zara said, her voice a mixture of anger and disdain. The figure turned slowly, his voice cold and metallic. Ah, Zara of the Share Attack. Always so persistent. And this must be the human you've dragged across the galaxy. Tell me, does he even understand the importance of what he is? Jax raised his pistol, trying to mask his fear. I'm working on it, thanks. Veil chuckled darkly, the sound echoing through the chamber. You've brought him here to activate the fragment. How noble. And foolish. Do you truly think you can stop me? I don't think, Zara said, unsheathing her blade, the weapon crackling with energy. I know. With a war cry, Zara launched herself at Veil. Their blades clashed in a blinding flash of light, the force of the impact sending shockwaves through the chamber. Drones surged forward to intercept her, but Zara moved like a whirlwind, cutting through them with precision. Jax, meanwhile, ducked behind a column as plasma bolts rained down around him. I'll just... Stay out of the way, he yelled, firing wildly at a drone that got too close. His shots were erratic, but luck was on his side. One bolt struck a drone's core, sending it crashing to the ground. Jax! Zara shouted mid-combat. The fragment! You must activate it. Activate it? Jax yelled back, his voice cracking. You keep saying that like I know what it means. Trust your instincts. Zara shouted, dodging a strike from Veil's blade. Jax glanced at the fragment, its glow pulsing faster as if responding to his presence. He swallowed hard and sprinted toward the pedestal, narrowly avoiding a plasma blast that scorched the ground behind him. As he reached the fragment, a strange warmth filled his chest, and the world around him seemed to fade. The moment Jax touched the key fragment, a surge of energy shot through his body. His vision blurred, replaced by flashes of memories that weren't his visions of a long-dead civilization, of the key's creation, and of his ancestors' desperate attempts to protect it. He saw their faces, their voices echoing in his mind. "You are the last of us, Jax. The key is yours to wield. Use it wisely." The fragment began to glow brighter, responding to his touch. It lifted into the air, spinning faster and faster until it shot a beam of light into Jax's chest. His body convulsed, and for a moment he felt as if he would be torn apart. Then the energy settled, and a strange calm washed over him. When his vision cleared, he saw Vale Torin advancing on him, his blade raised. "Foolish boy," Vale sneered. "You think you can control the key's power? It will destroy you." Jax raised his hand instinctively, and to his shock, a shield of pure energy materialized in front of him. Vale's blade struck the shield, sparks flying as the force of the impact reverberated through the chamber. "Whoa," Jax breathed, staring at his hand. "Did I just do that?" "Yes," Zara shouted, slicing through another drone. "You're tapping into the key's power. Use it." Vale growled, his voice full of rage. "You will not deny me this power." He unleashed a torrent of dark energy, the force of it cracking the walls and sending shards of ice flying. Jax raised both hands this time, summoning a barrier that absorbed the attack. "I don't know what I'm doing," Jax yelled, struggling to hold the barrier. "Then figure it out," Zara shouted, engaging Vale once more to buy him time. Jax closed his eyes, focusing on the energy coursing through him. He could feel the fragment's power resonating with something deep inside him, a connection to the long-lost Kael'tari. The visions he had seen flashed in his mind, guiding him. With a deep breath, Jax extended his hands toward the fragment. Its glow intensified, and the chamber began to shake as its energy filled the room. The drones fell from the air, their systems fried, and Vale staggered backward, his armor sparking. "No!" Vale roared, lunging at Jax in a final desperate attack. But Jax was ready. Summoning all the power he could muster, Jax unleashed a blast of energy that engulfed Vale, sending him hurtling across the chamber. The obsidian-armored figure crashed into the far wall, the impact leaving a deep crater. His body slumped to the ground, motionless. The fragment settled back onto the pedestal, its glow softening. Jax collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. Zara rushed to his side, her expression a mix of relief and pride. "You did it," she said, helping him to his feet. "Yeah," Jax panted, his legs trembling. "Remind me to never do that again." Zara chuckled softly. "You may not have a choice." As they left the fortress, the fragment safely secured, Jax glanced at Zara. "So, what happens now? Is the galaxy safe?" "Safer," Zara said, her tone cautious. "But Vale is not dead. He will return, and there are others who seek the key's power. This is only the beginning." Jax sighed. "Great. Just what I needed, a lifelong job I didn't apply for." Zara smiled faintly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You've proven yourself, Jax. The galaxy is fortunate to have you." Jax glanced at the stars above, their light cutting through the icy storm. For the first time, he felt something new: purpose. "Well," he said, smirking, "if I'm stuck saving the galaxy, I guess I'd better get good at it."